Everything you went through has a purpose. Not just the victories you celebrated, but the heartbreaks, the silent nights, the doors that slammed in your face. This isn't a feel-good phrase. It's a truth you'll start to see clearly the moment you stop asking why me and start asking what is life showing me through this. In this video, we're going to unpack exactly why your pain, your chaos, and your detours weren't accidents. There's a quiet wisdom hidden in the toughest seasons of your life, and today we'll help you uncover it. If any part of this message speaks to you, don't let it pass by. Save this video, come back to it often, and most importantly, live it. Watch it again on the days you feel lost. Reflect on it when life tests you. These aren't just words to hear once, they're reminders to carry with you. And before we dive deeper, do this. Comment on one lesson life has taught you through pain. You never know, your story might be exactly what someone else needs today. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe to walk this path of growth with us, one lesson at a time. 1. Every pain is a strict but wise teacher. Pain is not punishment, it's an instruction. And until we understand this, we'll continue to resist it, fear it, or even curse it. But the truth is, every painful moment you've lived through, whether it was a job loss, a breakup, a betrayal, or even a long season of feeling lost, carried a deeper purpose. Not because life enjoys watching us struggle, but because pain is the fastest, most precise tool to awaken what comfort cannot. Think about the last time something fell apart in your life. Maybe you didn't get the promotion you wanted. Maybe someone you trusted walked away. Maybe you felt like the universe was working against you. In those moments, it's easy to fall into the trap of asking, why me? The human mind craves certainty and reward, so any form of disruption feels unfair. But months or years later, looking back, you might have realized that what once seemed like a harsh ending was actually the beginning of a better path. That failed job interview led you to discover a role that truly aligned with your values. That person who left created space for someone who actually saw and valued the real you. These are not coincidences, these are recalibrations. Stoic philosophy teaches that pain is not random and it's not cruel. It is the universe, or what Stoics call logos, doing its quiet work to forge strength where there was once softness, clarity where there was once confusion. Just as fire tempers metal, pain tempers character. A sword is not forged in lukewarm water. It's shaped by heat, pressure, and fire. In the same way, your resilience, your wisdom, and your emotional depth are often born not in times of ease, but in the very moments you wished would just go away. But the more we avoid discomfort, the more we deny ourselves the transformation we secretly seek. There's a paradox here. We long to become stronger, more grounded, more peaceful, yet we resist the very process that can make us that way. Comfort may feel good, but it rarely teaches. Pain, on the other hand, leaves marks that teach us how to think deeper, live slower, and love wiser. Still, there's something more. Pain does not simply exist to shake us, it exists to show us. When you experience loss, for example, it may reveal where you've been placing your identity. If losing a title, a job, or a relationship makes you feel like you've lost your worth, pain is exposing something fragile. It's pointing you toward a more stable source of identity, one rooted not in what you do, but in who you are. And when you begin to see pain as a guide, not an enemy, everything shifts. You stop asking life to be easy, and instead, you start asking yourself to be strong. You stop blaming external circumstances and begin listening to what they're asking of you. Pain doesn't need to be romanticized, but it does need to be respected. Because every scar, every setback, every tear-stained night carries with it an invitation to grow, to evolve, and to step into the next version of yourself that comfort would never introduce you to. This is why everything you went through has a purpose, not a punishment, not a cosmic joke, but a process. And if you're in the middle of something painful right now, take a breath and remember, pain isn't here to destroy you. It's here to develop you. It's not a wall, it's a doorway. Walk through it, slowly if you must, but trust that something purposeful waits on the other side. 2. Don't be the glass, become the lake. The bitterness of pain doesn't change. What changes is the space you give it. This idea might seem abstract at first, but it becomes remarkably clear when you live through it. Picture a morning when everything goes wrong. You spill coffee on your only clean shirt right before a big interview. It feels like the world is against you. Now imagine that same day, but this time a close friend loses a parent. The grief, the ache, the real depth of loss dwarfs your frustration. Both situations are painful in their own way, but what truly changes isn't the pain, it's the scale. The coffee on your shirt still happened, but in the vastness of greater perspective, it tastes less bitter. Life doesn't ask us to ignore pain or pretend it's not real. Instead, it asks us to make more room. When you're operating with a narrow frame, when everything revolves around your own immediate emotions, every minor disappointment becomes overwhelming. But when you expand, when you make space emotionally and mentally, pain begins to dilute. That's what it means to become the lake. It doesn't mean you're immune to suffering, it means your capacity to carry it has grown, and this growth isn't passive. It's a decision, a deliberate shift in how you hold discomfort. I once had a neighbor who lived through what many would call a personal storm. He lost his job during the pandemic, his wife was undergoing treatment, and he had 3 kids to feed. Most people would have buckled under the weight, but he didn't. He started baking bread, not as a business plan, not with grand ambition, just as a way to stay moving, stay connected. Soon, he was delivering those loaves to other families nearby, some of whom were also struggling, and something shifted. The sorrow didn't vanish, but it softened. His world grew. The more he gave, the more he became a reservoir for others' pain, not just his own. He didn't escape his suffering, he expanded beyond it. This is what the Stoics pointed to when they taught about self-mastery and resilience. You don't wait for life to become easier, you become larger. The pain is the salt. Whether it tastes unbearable or manageable depends on whether you're pouring it into a shot glass or into a lake. A small mind, a narrow identity, a tightly wound sense of control, all of these make pain feel louder, sharper. But when you root your sense of self in something wider, gratitude, contribution, love, or even silence, suffering finds a place to rest without consuming everything. And no one teaches you how to become the lake. It's a quiet, daily decision. It's when you pause before reacting, when you take a deep breath instead of lashing out, when you reflect before drawing conclusions, when you listen to someone else's story before retelling your own. Slowly, over time, the vessel expands, and the more it does, the less power pain holds over your peace. This mindset doesn't just help you survive the hard seasons. It equips you to walk through them with grace, to become someone others turn to, not because you don't hurt, but because you've learned how to carry hurt with dignity. You've learned how to hold your suffering without letting it break the surface. You've stopped being the glass, you've become the lake. And in doing so, you've allowed space for healing, not just for yourself, but for those around you. 3. Chaos, the silent architect of transformation. Comfort breeds stagnation. Chaos ignites evolution. As strange as it sounds, disruption is not your enemy. It is, in fact, one of your greatest allies, though it often arrives uninvited, dressed like disaster. If you've ever looked back at a photo from 5 years ago and barely recognized the person you once were, you felt the quiet work of chaos. You've seen how life breaks what no longer serves you, not to ruin you, but to rebuild you. Nothing shakes a person awake quite like the collapse of what they thought was certain. In stillness, we settle. In upheaval, we grow. It's in chaos that we discover the parts of ourselves we forgot existed. Think of a storm that cuts the power across an entire neighborhood. The screens go dark, the background noise disappears, and the air feels heavier. At first, there's panic. Then something unexpected happens. Families light candles. Children come into the same room. Meals are cooked on gas stoves or shared by flashlight. Conversations that hadn't happened in weeks are suddenly flowing again. Laughter replaces scrolling. The storm that seemed to disconnect everything actually reconnected what mattered. This is how chaos operates. Not with kindness, but with clarity. It removes the illusions we cling to and forces us to look at what's real. Stoic thought sees chaos not as failure, but as function. Marcus Aurelius observed that obstacles are not outside the path, they are part of it. The very thing that disrupts your rhythm may be the exact thing needed to sharpen your awareness, to push you out of autopilot and to challenge the false sense of control you built. It's easy to build a life that looks put together on the surface, but is hollow underneath. Chaos strips that away. It doesn't ask for permission. It reveals what's essential. It teaches you to respond, not react, to pause instead of panic, to rebuild, not retreat. There's a natural order in chaos if you're willing to see it. A forest fire, for example, looks like devastation, but many seeds buried deep beneath the soil can only germinate when exposed to that kind of heat. Without the fire, those seeds would remain dormant forever. Likewise, your own growth sometimes requires being thrown into the fire, into uncertainty, heartbreak, or unexpected loss, so that something buried inside you can come alive. The transformation feels violent at first, but in time it reveals a version of you that is more aligned, more awake, more resilient. The problem is, we are conditioned to fear chaos. From an early age, we are taught to avoid mess, to seek stability, and to define success by how in control we feel. But real evolution rarely follows a script. It shows up when plans fail, when routines are disrupted, when the life we designed doesn't go according to plan. And yet, what grows from that rupture is almost always deeper, stronger, and more rooted in purpose. What if, instead of asking, "How do I get back to normal?" you asked, "What is this new reality trying to make of me?" Chaos, when met with clarity, becomes the starting point of personal transformation. It invites you to let go of what's no longer working and open yourself to what could be. It pushes you to expand your identity, update your thinking, and reset your emotional compass. And most of all, it reminds you that the process of becoming isn't tidy. It's raw. It's unpredictable. But it's real. Growth does not come with guarantees, but it always comes with opportunity, if you're willing to see chaos not as a curse, but as a call to rise. 4. There is no coincidence, only universal order, logos. What seems random is often precise. At first glance, it may feel like life is a collection of disconnected events. Missed buses, failed interviews, sudden breakups, chance meetings at coffee shops. But as time passes and the dust settles, a quiet pattern often begins to emerge. You miss a flight and end up having a conversation with a stranger that changes the way you see your career. You get rejected from a position you thought was meant for you, only to realize 6 months later that you weren't ready, or that something better was waiting. These are not isolated accidents. These are adjustments. Not punishments, but recalibrations directed by a deeper logic. What Stoic philosophers called logos, the rational principle that organizes the universe with quiet, unfailing precision. Imagine for a moment that life operates like a GPS. You set a destination, you follow the route, then you take a wrong turn. The system doesn't scold you. It doesn't shut down. It simply recalculates, offering a new way forward. It's still taking you there, just not through the path you expected. Logos works the same way. When a plan falls through, it's not necessarily because you failed. It may be because the route you envisioned no longer serves who you are becoming. The key is learning to trust that, even when you don't see the full map. The Stoics believe that this order is always at work, even when hidden. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Meaning, life is always shifting, always adjusting, but how we interpret those shifts shapes our experience of them. Often, the problem isn't what's happening, it's our belief that it shouldn't be happening. We label moments as wrong or unfair because they disrupt our illusion of control. But what if those disruptions are actually realignments? What if that job you lost was a way of nudging you out of stagnation? What if that rejection saved you from a commitment that would have drained your energy and dulled your potential? The narrative begins to change when you stop seeing yourself as a victim of chance and begin to understand yourself as part of a larger living system, one that responds to your growth, your choices, and even your missteps. This isn't about passivity. It's not about folding your hands and waiting for life to happen to you. It's about cultivating awareness. It's about noticing the subtle cues, the shifts in direction, the patterns that repeat. It's about choosing to respond with curiosity instead of fear, with openness instead of resistance. When you do, you'll often realize that what once felt like a closed door was simply a redirection towards something more aligned. The Stoic path isn't blind obedience to fate. It's active participation in a world where reason, order, and timing are always at play, even if we can't see the blueprint in real time. So the next time life doesn't go as planned, pause. Ask not why me, but what now? Trust that the answer may not come immediately, but it will come through small signs, quiet realizations, and opportunities that appear only when you've stopped clinging to the original plan. There is no coincidence in a universe governed by logos. There is only motion, some of it gentle, some of it jarring, but all of it purposeful. And once you learn to move with it rather than fight it, you begin to see the beauty in the reroute. You begin to realize that you were never off track. You were being carried all along. 5. Letting go is not defeat, but inner alignment. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means realigning with what truly matters. Most of us are taught that success comes from holding on, pushing forward, and never quitting. But what if holding on is the very thing keeping you stuck? Sometimes the most powerful act isn't clinging harder, but knowing when to release what no longer serves you. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the quiet strength to step off the path that no longer feels true and walk towards something more aligned with your core values. Imagine driving home after a long day, stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic. You could honk, grow frustrated, waste your energy in resistance, or you could exit early, take a longer, quieter road home. You still arrive, but you arrive with your peace intact. That is the difference between force and flow, between chasing and choosing. I remember my cousin, a man who poured years of energy and money into a startup. He believed in the product and believed in the vision, but the business stalled. He tried everything. Eventually he walked away, not because he had failed, but because he realized his real currency was time with his family, not a balance sheet. Today, he runs a modest auto repair shop in his hometown. He wakes up early, spends his afternoons coaching his kids' soccer games, and ends his evenings with quiet dinners. His success isn't broadcast online, but it's lived fully, every single day. That decision to walk away didn't make him smaller. It brought him closer to who he truly is. Letting go allowed him to realign. The Stoics often reminded us that it is not external outcomes, but inner order that determines peace. You can cling to something that looks successful to the world, but leaves you drained inside. You can fight to keep a relationship, a job, or a status just because it once meant something, even if it doesn't anymore. But when you measure life not by how tightly you grip things, but by how honestly you live, the equation shifts. Letting go becomes less about surrendering and more about making room. Room for truth, room for flow, room for clarity. Think of a bow and arrow. The arrow doesn't fly when the string is pulled to its limit. It flies when the tension is released. The aim isn't enough. It's the release that makes the shot accurate. Life works the same way. You can aim with all your might, but until you release control, release expectations, release the fear of being seen as someone who quit, you're not really aligned with your target. Letting go, then, is not a loss. It's a precision move, timed, intentional, liberating. And in today's world, where productivity is glorified and holding on is mistaken for courage, letting go becomes a radical act. It's not passive. It's not a resignation. It's an active choice to no longer betray your deeper knowing for the sake of appearing strong. Because strength is not how long you can endure what no longer fits. It's how swiftly you can recognize when something has run its course and walk away with your head high and your soul intact. So the next time you feel torn between holding on and letting go, ask yourself not what you might lose, but what alignment might feel like. Not what others will think, but how your body will breathe when you finally let go. Because in the stillness that follows release, you may just find not defeat, but freedom. Not an ending, but the beginning of something deeply right. 6. Life is a series of silent teachings. Life whispers before it shouts. Every moment has something to teach, but most of us are too busy waiting for the big signs to notice the quiet ones. We look for grand transformations, for wake-up calls that shake the earth beneath our feet, but life doesn't always work that way. More often, it speaks softly, in a glance, in a delay, in a mistake we repeat until we're finally ready to listen. It's not a classroom with rules and a teacher at the front. It's a living, breathing curriculum disguised as ordinary life. And the test isn't whether we get everything right, but whether we're paying attention. This morning, maybe you noticed a single yellow leaf drift onto your balcony. Maybe your child looked at you a second too long after you raised your voice. Maybe your morning coffee didn't taste right, and for some reason, it bothered you more than usual. These aren't just random moments, they're signals. Their messages are wrapped in silence. The way the wind shifts before a storm, life has a way of nudging us before it forces us. If you ignore the whisper, eventually it becomes a shout. But if you train yourself to tune in early, you can save yourself from so many unnecessary lessons repeated in louder tones. I remember a roommate once telling me about his old car that kept breaking down. Always, somehow, on the most important days. Job interviews, first dates, client meetings. He used to lose his mind over it. But one day, stranded in a parking lot, someone walked by and offered help. That someone ended up becoming a friend. That friend introduced him to a new business opportunity. That business connected him to a woman who eventually became his wife. Looking back, he said it wasn't the breakdowns that frustrated him, it was his refusal to see the pattern. Each disruption was a door opening sideways. The Stoics often wrote about observation as a path to wisdom. Epictetus taught that we should be more curious about what things mean than about what they appear to be. That means asking, what is life trying to say through this? Not why did this happen to me, but what can I learn from this moment, even if it feels small or annoying or inconvenient? Because often the teachings aren't loud. They're layered into our routines, showing up again and again until we finally get the message. Think of the ocean. It doesn't shout to teach you how to swim. It sends waves, some gentle, some crashing, and each one is a lesson in balance, in surrender, in staying calm even when the current pulls. Life does the same. It teaches in rhythm and tides, in pulses of resistance and release. The question is not whether life is teaching you. It always is. The real question is whether you're willing to see your own patterns with honesty. Whether you're willing to pause long enough to hear the quiet messages being offered every day. And it's not about being perfect. You don't need to extract a deep philosophical truth from every spilled cup of coffee or every awkward silence. It's about cultivating a mindset that sees meaning in the everyday. That's where emotional healing begins. That's where spiritual clarity grows. That's where growth happens, not in sudden flashes, but in steady realization. So the next time something small feels off, take a breath. Pay attention, because the lesson may already be in motion, and the sooner you hear it, the softer life will have to speak. 7. Don't ask why me. Ask, what is life teaching me? Shift from victim to student. Growth starts with better questions. Life will test you over and over, but what shapes your experience isn't just the event, it's the lens you choose to look through. When something unexpected or painful happens, most people instinctively ask, why me? It's a natural reaction, rooted in confusion and hurt, but that question keeps you stuck. It makes you the target of an invisible force, a passive receiver of pain. And yet, there's a subtle shift, one that changes everything, not in what happened, but in the question you ask next. When you ask instead, what is life trying to teach me through this? You move from helplessness into awareness, from blame to growth. Think back to the last time things didn't go your way. Maybe it was something personal, a relationship ending before you were ready. Maybe it was professional, being passed over for a promotion you thought you deserved. Did you get angry? Did you replay the scenario in your mind, wondering what went wrong or blaming someone else? Most of us do. But pause for a second. Breathe. Ask a different question. What was this moment really about? What truth about myself did I not want to face? Is it possible I wasn't as aligned with that relationship or that job as I thought? These aren't comfortable questions, but they're the ones that lead to clarity. In Stoic philosophy, nothing is inherently good or bad. Events are neutral. Interpretation is everything. Epictetus said it best. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you change your questions, you change your focus. From external control to internal growth. Instead of obsessing over why something happened, you begin to ask what it's asking of you. What muscle is this moment helping you develop? Patience, courage, self-respect, discipline? Often, what we label as setbacks are simply lessons wrapped in disguise. But they only teach if we're open to being students. I've known people who were devastated after being rejected from what they thought was their dream job, only to realize, months later, that it would have crushed their creativity. I've spoken to someone who thought a breakup was the worst thing that ever happened to him, until he learned how to set boundaries for the first time in his life. He didn't get stronger because life was kind. He got stronger because he asked better questions. He didn't say, "Why me?" He asked, "What do I need to learn here?" And life gave him the answers, slowly and clearly. And sometimes, life pulls you back not to punish you, but to prepare you. A bowstring must be pulled backward to launch an arrow forward. That tension isn't cruel, it's necessary. Without it, the arrow can't fly. What if your current struggle isn't a detour, but a recalibration? What if it's not meant to break you, but to position you more precisely toward your true purpose? When you stop resisting the pull and start leaning into the lesson, you begin to understand the design behind the discomfort. Better questions are like keys. They unlock deeper wisdom. They open parts of you that frustration and blame never could. So the next time you find yourself asking, "Why is this happening to me?" shift. Ask, "What part of me is being called to grow through this?" Because the moment you change the question, you change the journey. And that small shift in thought, that's where true transformation begins. Everything you went through has a purpose, whether it made you pause, rethink, or rebuild. Life doesn't hand out experiences at random. Each challenge, setback, or unexpected turn is part of your personal transformation story. It's not just about emotional healing or personal growth. It's about discovering that your pain wasn't pointless, your delay wasn't wasted, and your struggle wasn't in vain. From job loss to heartbreak, from feeling stuck to finding meaning again, these are not detours, but design. When you shift your mindset from victim to student, you unlock wisdom buried deep in everyday moments. This is how Stoic philosophy works in real life. It's not lofty, it's practical. It's for anyone looking to overcome adversity, find inner peace, or simply live more aligned with purpose. So if something in this video spoke to you, don't just watch once. Come back to it. Let it sink in. Practice it daily. And now, share with us in the comments. What's one lesson life has taught you through struggle? Your words might be exactly what someone else needs today. And if this message helped you gain clarity or calm, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more wisdom, strength, and real conversations.